Hi, my name is Sebastian Tabania. I'm from MSN Latin America, based in Argentina.
Hey,
great to meet you. I have that
How are
same
you?
poster, the Carter the
Yeah?
Great poster behind you. Yeah.
Well, because I'm a filmmaker, and on September I released my movie, which is based on the magic community here in Buenos Aires.
Oh, brilliant!
And we use this poster because it's a custom-made poster. Because if you see the deck of cards that we use in the movie, not in the original poster. So it has to do with
yeah, Carter beats the devil. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh well, good luck with that. I love a movie about magic.
Well, I can give you a link if you want afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah.
We wanna. Yeah, just that. I don't know who wants to. I don't know how to get the link for you, but I don't know. Just give me an email, or I'll send you whatever you want. Okay. Okay. Margaret's here, so she's listening.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Danny, I interviewed 20 years ago for I Still Know What You Did Last Summer. And you had a cold. You were in bed. I remember that. It was
I?
Yes.
I was exhausted of shame. Yeah.
So it was interesting. So I really love the first season of Pennyworth because it reminded me a lot of Gotham, which I love, which I saw all the episodes, all the seasons, and I really like the take of the alternate history you took for Gotham, although Gotham is a fictional city, and also with Pennyworth. So how did you come up with the idea of doing an alternate England in the 60s? It was at the beginning, it was during, production, or during, mapping out the different seasons?
It was very early on in the, I think as soon as the idea of Pennyworth came up, then it became clear. And Danny was in on it right from the beginning, from just, the word, how about a show about Pennyworth? It seemed clear that it had to be some kind of alternate universe, because it needed a corollary, an analogy, an equivalence for the fantasy world that Batman lives in America, which is kind of out of time and is related to the real world, but not the real world. How do you do that in another country that doesn't have a history of superheroes and all of that pop culture around it? So it was, and Gotham is kind of New York, but nastier. That DC world is America, but tougher and more violent. So it's an alternate world. Turning it back to England, it was really the key to it was, all right, this is a completely different history of England, where we didn't win the war, where as soon as you're liberated by that, anything is possible, and it makes the story that much more interesting to tell, as long as you hold on to one or two points, anchors that make it recognizable and real.
Did you were influenced by, for example, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Because it looks like, there's the Chuck the Ripper's son, I guess, and also we have a lot of characters from the literature and also from actual history, that get blended together in this new alternate version.
Yeah, I like that story a lot, League of Gentlemen, because it was all the books I'd read, told in a genre type of film, but we didn't really reference it at all. But it was one of the only comic book ideas that had been filmed before we started this.
And it's also the fact that if you go to English pop culture, they're not superheroes. They're characters that are drawn from 100 different places. They're folkloric characters as much as comic book characters. They live in the same way in pop culture, but they didn't come from comic books. But once they're out in the real world, they kind of exist in that same strange dream world.
Mm-hmm. Also, you know, the British films from the 60s are very idiosyncratic. You have a lot of gangster movies, but also you have a lot of, you know, mod movies, which are what a fad on that time, and there are like little references or little homages to that. So do you go to some, I don't know, maybe the Italian Job, maybe Sleuth, maybe, I don't know, some Richard Lester's movies to draw inspiration from?
It's more the Harry Palmer series, the Ypres File and Funeral in Berlin, and movies like that, because they were noirish and gothic in a certain way. Those are the ones. I think a lot of the films in the 60s, there were two types of films in the 60s. There was the kitchen sink drama, the reality, where working class characters were getting a voice, even though it was a very upper class voice. And then there were the color Panavision swinging 60s, everyone with a bright smile kind of 60s, which we had to stay away from. You know, the looming war and the pending civil war was something that kept the clouds over London for a while, and so we stayed in our references, like I said, were like Harry Palmer films, and This Sporting Life was something I watched again, and maybe Alfie. That was a good one. Yes, but at the same time, all of those films were trying to be modern, and we were trying to be old-fashioned. We didn't want to move too fast into the future and have him ride in a Vespa with a smile on his face, like an Italian. You know, his father is part of the British aristocracy. You know, it's like his father was a butler, and we had to stay our feet planted in the ground before we could paint anything around him.
One of the greatest things about Gotham was the production design and also the photography, the cinematography, which is great. Well, during the every season. So and Pennyworth has the same, you know, interest in production design and also cinematography. So how do you come up with the idea of the aesthetics of the TV show?
It's conversations with Bruno more than anything else. I mean, even with Gotham, we sat down and we talked for a couple of hours, and he expressed the main points that he wanted to get across. And you just let your imagination go. And it's funny how quickly you go, it's this rather than that. It's kind of like you're servicing the writing, and in the end, the writing is servicing you. It's both things at the same time. In order to tell those kind of stories, you have to create a world with which they make sense. Batman's not a superhero. He doesn't have superpowers. He doesn't, he doesn't get hit by a meteor or all of those kind of things. There's a reality to it. But at the same time, he's still going to wear a suit and walk around this city. So the city needs to change just enough that suit makes sense. So that's where the initial conversations start. And that's where if Gotham was 80s New York and we're the 60s, 20 years before that in London, how could it be the same world but different?
Mm-hmm. And okay, and the last question is, how many seasons do you have on your mind?
To have on my contract. That's it's an unanswerable question, because that is in the hands of the audience. Mm-hmm. No one is promised another season. So you just tell, what you try and do is leave people wanting more at the end of every season. And if they do want more, then you get more. This story has a natural end, with when Batman appears. That would that would be a natural ending to it. But how long that's going to take us to get there, I have no idea. Many years.
Okay, guys. Yeah. Well, hopefully a lot of years.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian.
Okay.